Hey, this is Sebastian for the Metal Gods Meltdown, and today I'm joined by
Bjorn Englen, bass player of Soul Sign and Dio Disciples.
great to be chatting today. First up, then, can you give us a little bit of insight into your plans for the rest, well, for the year, and when can we expect a new release from your bands?
Yeah. No, we are going to release the record, and we don't have a release date yet, but we are also working on a single, which is going to be a surprise what it is, and a video for that, which is going to be released before the album, most likely. So that it's all in the works, and we'll hopefully have an update pretty soon when and all that exactly. So
Awesome. You've had an amazing career, but if I could ask you to clutch one highlight out of the sky that pops into your head right away, what would it be?
a highlight of my career. Oh my goodness. Uh, that's a really good question. I think there's many, really, playing, one of them I think was playing with Yngwie Malmsteen. Another one, I've had some really good times and good years with Dio Disciples. Playing at the Wacken, headlining the Wacken Festival in 2016, I think was a absolutely one of the highlights. Absolutely. It's there's always something, and I'm guesting on a lot of records too. I'm doing a lot of guest appearances, and I always get requests to play on stuff. And just finished something that just came out a few days ago was a track I did for the band Social Disorder.
Okay.
And I thought it came out pretty good. It's fun. It's Sean Duncan on from LA Guns on drums, and with Tracy Guns on guitar, and just really good lineup of and Anders Ronblom, the leader of the whole thing. He composed everything, and it's a good sounding record. I recommend people to check it out. I'm on one track. I'm gonna try to remember the name of the song here because I can't at the moment. But yeah, it's good stuff. So check it out. But I'm always working on something and always getting requests to play on stuff, and it's really enjoyable. Keeps it fresh. And fun. I love working with different people and different producers. People have different views, and it's always fun to explore different things. So I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've been in the industry a long time. If you could change anything about the industry in 2024, what would it be?
Well, a big thing is the streaming of music. That I'm not against the streaming. It just needs to pay more, and artists are getting ripped off. Labels are getting ripped off unless you're one of the labels that own stock in these companies, which, in my understanding, some of the major ones do, and they're fine. But the medium size and small labels and the artists it's not fair. That's something that has to be fixed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know what's going to happen to the music industry, really. But that's I think that's the main thing, really. Touring, yeah, but it's all becoming like a sort of a catch-22 because you're not allowing people to sell the product that they're promoting. So it's kind of a weird thing. You what are you touring for? Normally you tour to promote a record, right?
Yeah.
You tour to promote a record that you can't sell. It's kind of tough. So I think it's come to a halt, and we see ticket prices being way too high, and so to compensate, and I just don't think it's going to work. But I could be wrong, and as long as the artists are tolerating the situation and making the records for free,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's going to change. It's like, the only workers that get a raise is the ones that go on strike, right? Sometimes. So if you don't strike, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? So I think artists, musicians, and music artists have a tendency to be their own worst enemy, I think, in a lot of ways. And that's just one of them. I think, period, they have like no business sense usually. So most of them, some of them do, but I see people work in desperations. They're making records really fast with 10 different people.
Yeah.
And throwing stuff together. Productions are great, but there's no songs. And I see it all the time with name players. They're like panicking, oh, I'm retiring in 5 or 10 years, so I better spit out, 10 records a year. And there's no money in anything, and nothing's making sense. So I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you.
Are you glad then that you started off in the industry when you did?
Oh, if I am, yeah, I think so. I mean, in a lot of ways, the problem was, I think there's a lot of great. I grew up in the '80s, right, and the '90s. Well, '80s mostly, and there's a ton of good music, and the songwriting was just fantastic in every genre, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But people had already started not playing the bass the way it should be played, in my opinion. It was played. You listen to music in the '70s, the bass was all over the place. That sort of stagnated in the '80s, and I think that was one of the reasons that hard rock and heavy metal came to a halt when all this grunge music came in. Even grunge music actually had more moving bass parts and stuff like that. And not that I'm a big fan, but it's I'm glad that I moved. I'm still glad I grew up in the '80s.
Same.
And I kind of, I came to LA from Sweden in 1993, which was probably, in a way, one of the worst times you could come to LA ever, I think.
Yeah.
The '90s was just a very horrific scene here.
Grunge, wasn't it? That's when the grunge.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
And it never really took roots in the same way anywhere else in the world. It was just the U.S. really. That it took over and everything got wiped out. That didn't really happen in Europe and South America and Asia.
No.
So that was. But what can you do? When a lot of the roots of the labels are here, it becomes a worldwide problem anyway, more or less. But with that said, I think moving here was a strange time. But I'm still glad I came here. So it was good for me musically. I ended up working as a session guy in the '90s, and I learned a lot from that. So I can't complain, really. It is what it is. We can't go back and change the past. So, I'm pretty happy with a lot of things. I think that I could have made some better choices, obviously, in a lot of ways. And but the way that the music business is now is never seen anything. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but what are you going to do? You just got to keep playing, and eventually, I'm not quite sure what to say. I think the streaming is the biggest. It's the only issue, really. That needs to be fixed, and streaming's great, but like I said, it just needs to pay more to the artist. That I think the internet and the digital, all that it's a beautiful thing. It can be a very practical, and you reach fans like immediately. People don't have to walk or drive or take the bicycle to the record store anymore. Which I really enjoyed as a kid. I think there was a charm in that you can't replace with anything, but at the same time, the delivery of the music now is instant, and it's good for the most part. I think can be. So
when you're up on stage, Dio's Disciples, that you still really enjoy playing live, or I mean, as we're all getting older, you're starting to think, I'd just rather be in the studio. What's your feelings on that?
I think I enjoy it more than ever because I've you know, a lot of it's internal struggles, right? Like you teach yourself how to be and how to enjoy things more, and how to relax, and how to be a better stage performer, you know. And so I think I enjoy it more than ever, you know. I personally haven't done a lot of you know, long term touring
Right,
lately in the
right,
last couple of years, but I do enjoy performing, I think, more than ever. um you know, obviously I think what gets harder, it's not that, but also that the travel gets tougher as we get older. We become more, we raised our standards, and we sort of, you've been there and done that, and you're traveling a certain way is almost out of the question now. Like, you know, it has to be reasonable and comfortable, somewhat comfortable, otherwise it's not even worth it, you know. So
yeah,
that has definitely changed.
mhm,
But I think, you know, being a better musician and the maturing as a musician and a stage performer has really helped me, not only enjoy it more, but also um, be a better performer. You know, and that's something you never stop growing, and that's what, I guess, the big challenge, and then what makes it fun too. It's just that, you know, and yeah, it's you know, as long as it's fun, you keep doing it, right?
yeah,
The day it's not fun anymore, there's really no point.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I know what you're saying, man. Yeah. Um,
yeah, yeah.
if there was a heavy metal song about yourself, like,
Oh, oh, wow. Well, what a great question. I really don't know if somebody else wrote it or if I wrote it.
well, somebody else wrote it, maybe. They wrote it about you.
Oh, I don't know why this title comes to mind. I don't know where it came from. Rolling Thunder, maybe. From,
Awesome.
it sounds kind of Vikingish, and the bass player that keeps on rolling, right?
Yeah. So,
Um, my, so it could be about being a, you know, just persistency, and I think that's what it really takes in the business to
mhm,
carry on and keep going. You know, it's just you never give up. You know, so
yeah. The Viking spirit, yeah.
yeah,
With you, man.
you know, and I think music, being a music in the music business is like different than anything else.
Mhm.
You it works differently. You know, and it's hard. It's a rough place to be.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's not easy, you know, and making sense of everything financially, and you know, getting treated fairly is, it's a constant struggle, you know.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest battles, really. Um but you know, I've been lucky in that sense that I chose to explore different styles and get better
Yeah.
within, you know, and learn my instrument in a way where that I could benefit from that, and always be working and always surviving. So
Mhm.
it's been
Brilliant.
a blessing, really. Yeah.
Who would be your four musicians on your Mount Rushmore of musicians? So that's not come out right, is it? No. But Mount
Uh,
Rushmore, who would be your four musicians instead of the presidents?
and instead of the precedents.
Yeah, so your four musicians, who would you have up there?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Sorry,
that's a no, no, no. That's
didn't
a
come out
really,
right.
really good.
It's late.
No, that's a really good question because there's so many, right?
Yeah,
It's almost hard to pick them, you know. Um, I mean, I think some of the most influential ones that come to mind. I mean, I have to say Eddie Van Halen is one of them.
yeah. Hmm.
That in my time has been one of the most influential, I think, for rock music. One of them, you know,
Yeah,
uh, Paul McCartney,
yeah.
possibly, um, Jimi Hendrix, maybe. I have to pick one more. Ooh, That's a tough one. You know, maybe Michael Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
It's the way he influenced the pop music, and is just this incredible performer and a great writer. And, you know, and he was unique, you know. So, but there's, you know, that's if I had to pick four, you know, Mike, if I had to think about it, I might have to go back and pick four different people. But yeah, so that I guess I picked four pretty good ones, I suppose. But
Yeah, that's four good
um,
ones. Yeah.
I know what would be your four if I asked you.
uh, Ronnie James Dio, Richie Blackmore. He does smile sometimes, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He,
No,
yeah,
Ronnie definitely. Yeah. So sorry.
Ian
Go ahead.
Gillan, Sebastian Bach, big Sebastian Bach fan. So yeah, um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that'll be mine.
Okay.
Okay, my
Okay.
namesake. Oh, Eddie Van. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You keep changing your mind, don't you, when you're thinking about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you keep
And you
thinking,
and
oh,
you.
I should have said Eddie because I've got Eddie there. Like, oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh, and I think like Ronnie James Dio and Richard Blackmore definitely two good
Yeah,
choices.
yeah,
I think as far as also John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin should probably
yeah.
be on my list, just as far as his the most underrated guy in that band, and
Mhm.
I think the guy that stands out the most really, and you're not just that band, but it's a bass player, period. You know, so.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, if you limit it to four, it gets tough, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does. Playing the bass. Do you remember the first time you ever picked up the bass guitar and it was like, yeah, this is it?
I do. I mean, and there were several moments before I even owned a bass. I used to go to the music store and I used to pick up a bass there, and then I eventually ended up getting a bass like that, just in a different color through mail order. It was like sort of an inexpensive thing.
Hmm.
But the first time I really played and somebody really showed me something, and I kind of played I was thinking it was like a 12 bar blues or something, was at school, like at the youth center at school, my junior high school, my first year in junior high school. I was 13, and that was the time I really kind of dug into it and started playing. And I just remember like really digging it and finding it being my thing pretty much right away. Like, and I never played guitar before I played bass, so and I never looked back. And I'm glad I didn't, because you know it seems to be a tough thing when you play guitar for years and switch to bass. A lot of people never really end up sounding like bass players. They sound like guitar players trying to play bass. So I'm kind of glad I did that and stuck to it. And but I do remember those couple of moments, and obviously also when I finally got I actually got to bring that bass, borrow the bass, and bring it home over the weekend, and I was just blown away.
Hmm.
And I thought it was very generous of them to let me borrow it. And so I tinkled around a little bit and kind of was just kind of like in awe of the whole thing. Couldn't believe it, you know. And I remember getting my own bass and unpacking it, and that was kind of that was a big moment too in my life, obviously. Um, and I kind of think I knew I wanted to play. There was no doubt about that. And then when I was 15 is when I had one of those moments of, you know, just I remember that moment also when I just knew that this is what I want to do. You know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and play on big stages. And so it, and then there's no looking back, really. You know, I never really had a plan B of, you know, started getting in and studying for another profession or anything like that. I have worked as, you know, a million different things,
Yeah.
anything you can imagine almost. But as far as, you know, pursuing another career or anything like that was never an option for me. And I think that's the only way to do it. And if I think people have a plan B tends to be plan A, you know, so it becomes plan A after a while. So
Totally.
uh,
Well, I always talk about the musicians that have been like through the 80s. Because that's when I first got into metal, like 81, 82. I remember obviously Motley Crue and all the bands starting to get bigger, Megadeth, you know, Metallica and that. And there were
Yeah.
wild days, Twisted Sister, blah blah blah. I mean, what
Yeah.
was the most outrageous thing then you ever did in the name of rock and roll, or are you not allowed to say?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, I never got into drugs or anything like that. I never got into drinking before a show. But and also I think they were very, very civilized. The when I started touring, I mean, my first real tour was with Quiet Riot, and
Mm.
even that was much calmer, I think, than what had been going on in the '80s. People get older and people mature. It was nothing really too crazy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's moments, obviously. But uh, in I think that with Yngwie Malmsteen and with the Dio Disciples and any of the other bands I toured with, everything's been very civilized and kind of we'll have fun and
Mhm.
go drink on the days off, maybe something like that. But for the most part, unfortunately, I don't have. I got stories, but I don't got any too stories that are too crazy. I remember playing one show in Puerto Rico with Yngwie Malmsteen, and we hadn't played in a few months, and this was kind of like a one-off show between rehearsals. And um, he would do two guitar solos, so one would be like 90 seconds, and the second one later in the show would be 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And I remember before the show, I was jet lagged. I've had I think 2 Red Bulls right before the show, and that was a lesson learned too. Don't ever do that again. So after 3 songs, he goes into a guitar solo, and I'm thinking this is the long one. So I go like, great, now I can run to the bathroom. And it was this big arena, right? So I'm starting
Yeah.
running down the hallways, and I found the dressing room because I knew we had a bathroom in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So I go inside there, and as I'm in the bathroom, I hear him starting the next song, and then I'm trying to find my way back to the stage, and I couldn't. It was like a real Spinal Tap moment where I ran different ways, but I heard music, but I couldn't tell which direction because it was just echoing through the hallways.
Yeah.
So it took me about 3-4 minutes to get back up on stage. When I get on stage, is when they end the song, and the guys in the band looked at me. Everybody except for Yngwie like turned around and looked at me they were like in shock. They were like, "Oh my God, you didn't just do that!" And Yngwie never said anything. He never turned around or. So that was quite interesting, but that's a moment to remember, right? Like I don't know how rock and roll that was, but it was kind of a crazy moment, and that show was pretty memorable too. My
Yeah.
my bass, the strap for my bass broke, and the screw, uh, you know, I don't know where it went, and then it was, what do you call it, the strap locks, so you can't. There's nothing to hold the strap onto, so. And the tech I had was a local tech, and he didn't speak any English, and I couldn't find him. So I asked the drum tech, "Where's the bass tech?" And he said he couldn't understand me either. He understood me a little bit, so he finally found the guy, and the guy came, and I'm trying to explain without knowing any Spanish. I'm trying to tell him I need duct tape, and he's just like didn't understand what I was. And then he saw my strap was broken, and I'm like, finally got him to grab some duct tape and tape the strap onto my bass. My spare bass was tucked away somewhere. I don't know where he had put it, so I couldn't grab that one. So that was right as the show started. So that whole show was pretty memorable, and for many different ways like that. So, but that it's things happen, and then
Yeah.
at the time it was a little nerve-wracking, but looking back at it, it's pretty amusing.
Yeah. Can imagine. Man. So have
Yeah.
you ever sort of thought about writing a book about your career?
If I have, and to be honest with you, I have started a long time ago. I just haven't continued. It's it would be about my life, my career, and my life, or obviously a lot of it will be about my career and chaptering it around that. but it would be about many aspects of my life,
Yeah.
and that's something I'd love to finish one day, you know. So,
Yeah.
for sure.
Cool. Well, we're running out of time now, so I want to thank you for your time and for your patience with the time
No
delays and
problem.
everything.
Yeah.
Hope your
Yeah,
cold
yeah.
gets better. Do you have any final words for your fans, our viewers, and listeners?
Go check out the new single by Soul Sign. It's called Clean Soil. You can find it on
That's cut. That's cut.
inside the iTunes app only. And iTunes, yeah.
It's just cut out there.
Sorry?
They're totally cut out.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we got a new single out by Soul Signs called Clean Soil, and it's inside the iTunes app only. And go find it there, and you can also stream a small bit of it. But so that's a little taste of what's coming in for the new album, the new record, and it's our first single, and then we got some surprises, so stay tuned.
So when do you reckon the album's going to actually drop then? Summertime?
Summer or fall. We're looking at timing it with some other releases that the possible label has going and things like that. So we'll have to time it with things, and obviously this single and video that we did, that's kind of like unattached to the record. It's going to be released before the record, so we have to see when the release date for that is going to be too. So have to sort of time everything. So.